So, very good morning. Namaste and welcome to revision sessions of Bharadwaj Institute. I believe you have already gone through the revisions of all other subjects and we are now in the last subject. Basically, this is paper number 3, which is Maths, Business Mathematics and Statistics. Okay, so a quick outline to the paper pattern. So we are going to have an examination where we are going to attempt 50 questions of 2 marks each. Okay, 50 questions of 2 marks each, and these 50 questions are going to be predominantly divided as 30 questions and 20 questions, where 30 is going to be from statistics and 20 from mathematics, business mathematics. Okay, we do not have negative marking. So if you do not answer a question, it is just going to be 0 marks, or if you answer it wrong, it is just going to be 0 marks. Okay, so there is no concept of negative marking. So, and what is the hours for this paper, total available hours for this paper? Can anyone tell me?
1 hour.
Yes. So technically we are going to have 1 hour in which we are going to attempt this 50 questions. In other words, 60 minutes for 50 questions. Okay. And how to make the best use of this 60 minutes in terms of your answering is going to be on how you prepare for your paper. Okay. So our agenda in this revision sessions is going to be: number 1, the chapter wise we are going to have a quick recap, logical recap of all the basic concepts, so that there is no question on lack of clarity of concepts. So we are going to have a quick review of all the concepts, and then we will be practicing about 10 to 15 questions of different models under each chapter. So probably now if you look at the chapters in maths, you have about 9 to 10 chapters, and in statistics, the broad chapters I'm telling you, and in statistics when I take, you will have about say 6 or 7 chapters, larger chapters. So if we take all of them together, about 9 plus 6, around 50 chapters, and on an average if we take about 10 questions, so we are going to solve about 100 to 150 questions, somewhere about 100 to 150 questions in the next 4 days. Okay, from each of the chapters, about 7 to 10 questions. So this is going to be our understanding, and at the end of this revision you will also be given some practice questions for your self practice, right? Okay, so this is going to be our pattern for discussion for this revision model. Now, few things before I start into the revision. Number 1, I expect you to have your calculators and your notebook side by side. You will be taking down all the points that we discuss in the class in terms of important notes, as well as working the problems parallelly when you give the answers. And number 2, we will try to be answering the questions in a quick manner, so that we are equipped to answer the questions like how we do in the examination. Okay, your examination is going to give you only 60 minutes for 50 questions. So even if we take 10 minutes away, we are going to have about roughly about 1 minute or a little more than 1 minute only for one question. So that being the case, your swiftness in answering the questions is very, very important here. So we need more practice on the go, so that we are able to have hands-on experience on solving the questions like how we do in the examination. And number 3, I want the classroom to be interactive. So whenever I ask or post a question, your answers have to be, you can unmute and give me your answers, or you can, when I say you can unmute and give me the answers, you can either unmute yourself and talk or post your answers in the chat box. Either ways is fine, but I do want the classroom to be interactive. And last but not the least, do not hesitate to ask any doubts if you have in the concept when we are discussing the concepts. right? So given all that, shall we begin with the day's revision?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So we are going to start today with the first set of topics. Today's coverage is going to be module 1 from mathematics, which comprises of 4 chapters: ratios, variations and proportion, time and distance, AP and GP, which is arithmetic and geometric progressions, and time value of money. And in statistics, we are going to discuss 2 modules which are very critical from your examination point of view: module 4 and module 5. Especially this module 5 is going to be very critical. So to have a warm up session, we are going to start with mathematics, the smaller chapters, and then we will go, as the day progresses, we will go towards the larger and the more important topics. Right? And I have also given you your examination weightage in terms of marks. So basically this divided by 2 approximately gives you the number of questions. So if you see here, the maximum weightage, especially in this module, is about 15 to 20 marks, which means somewhere around 7 to 10 questions can be tested from this chapter: central tendency, dispersion and skewness. Okay, and these 4 chapters together, 7 to 10 questions can appear. So this is the rough estimate in terms of marks weightage based on your past examination papers as well. Right? So we are going to start with the first module of mathematics and the first chapter in the first module: ratios, variations and proportion. So let's quickly recap what ratios are. Now when you look at a ratio, we will be representing ratio as, one minute, yeah. Ratio is represented as A is to B, where a ratio is nothing but 2 terms which are expressed in the form of relationship to one another, and where these 2 terms are generally expressed in the same quantities. So if 2 terms are given in centimeters, both the terms are in rupees. So when we express the relationship between the 2 variables in same units, then they are called, it is said to be in a ratio. The first part is called as the antecedent and the second part is called as the consequent. Okay? Right? Now there are certain basic properties in ratios and basic rules that we need to remember. Let's quickly get into that. Point number 1, ratio is the comparative relationship between 2 quantities and variables expressed in the same units. Now in a ratio, the first part is called as the antecedent and the second part is called as the consequent. Now when you look at the ratio, generally we can express this as a ratio like this, or numerator by denominator. Now when both are equal, then it is called as an equal ratio. Whereas when the numerator or the antecedent is greater, then it is called as a ratio of greater inequality. And when the denominator or the consequent is greater or antecedent is lesser, then it is called as the lesser inequality. Okay? And now comes these terms. For example, if I have a ratio 3:4, the inverse of it or the reciprocal of it is nothing but the inverse ratio, which is 4:3 or B:A. Similarly, if I square the 2 values, duplicate ratio, so 3 square is to 4 square, then this is called as duplicate ratio. The opposite version of it, if I take the square root of the 2 values, then it is called as the subduplicate ratio. So duplicate ratio is A square is to B square. Subduplicate ratio, root A is to root B. Same way, if I am going to cube the two values, a cube is to b cube, then it is triplicate ratio. Whereas when I am going to take the cubic root of the two values, then it is triplicate ratio. Sorry, there is a printing mistake. It is triplicate ratio. Triplicate ratio. Cubic root of a is to cubic root of b. So far clear? Now, the next important property. If I have 2 or 3 ratios, like say 2 is to 3, 4 is to 5, 6 is to 8. Now, if I want to combine all the 3 ratios, then I can write it as the numerators multiplied and the denominators multiplied. So, this is called as the compound ratio, where the numerators are multiplied and the denominators are multiplied. So, this is called as the compound ratio. Is that clear? And then comes the last, when two ratios are equated, say a by b is equal to c by d. Now this leads us to the next learning area, which calls as the proportion. So when we equate two ratios, when we relate two variables, then it is a ratio. When we relate two ratios together, then it becomes a proportion. Okay? So when we relate two variables, or when we relate two ratios, a by b equals c by d, where we equate the two ratios, then the cross multiplication rule will apply, where AD is equal to BC. And this is expressed as a proportion. A is to B equals or in proportion is represented by double is to C is to D, where the middle terms are called as the means and the extremes or the end terms are all called as the extremes. Okay? Now coming to the rule of proportions. If two ratios are equated, then it becomes a proportion. If A, B, C are in proportion, then it is called as, the ratio is given as B square is equal to AC. So here we have mentioned as 4 variables. Now let us assume the ratio is like this: A is to B is equal to B is to C, which means the two means are the same values. So therefore we can write this equation as B square is equal to AC. B square is equal to AC, and this can be written as a continued proportion. Continued proportion meaning I can write it as a proportion of more than two variables. A is to B is to C. A is to B is to C. Okay, and this becomes a continued proportion. This becomes a continued proportion. Am I clear? Now coming to certain basic rules of proportion. Now the first rule is called as the rule of invertendo. Invertendo means inversing or reciprocal. So if A is to B equals C is to D, then B is to A will be equal to D is to C. Alternando. Alternando means alternating the values. So if A is to B equals C is to D, then A is to C equals B is to D. So I am alternating the ratio values. So A is to C will be equal to B is to D. Next, componendo. Componendo means combining or adding. So A is to B is equal to C is to D. Now, A plus B by B will be equal to C plus D by D. And dividendo is dividing or subtracting here. So A is to B is equal to C is to D, then it means A minus B is to B will be equal to C minus D is to D. And when the rule number 3 and 4 combine, then we can say A plus B divided by or is to A minus B is equal to C plus D is to C minus D. Now you can ask, ma'am, will we get questions directly? No. They might give you this particular property and ask you what this property is. Is it invertendo? Is it alternando? Is it componendo? Like that. So just for that purpose, we are remembering these terms. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
And the last part of variations. Now, what is variation? Variation is nothing but an extended version of proportions, I would say, where we are relating two variables x and y in relation to each other. And when we say x is directly related to y or direct variation, then it means that when x increases, y will also increase, or when x decreases, y will also decrease. However, if I am going to give an inverse variation, so reciprocal of y, or I can write this as 1 by x is inverse of y. So which means that one variable will increase and correspondingly the other variable will decrease, or x will decrease, y will increase. So the first model is called as the direct variation and this model is called as the inverse variation. Now, how to find out the missing figure when it comes to direct and inverse variation? Just remember the shortcut. Whenever we have direct variation, say for example, x1, when x1 is a particular value, y1 is given. So, therefore, x2 is given. Now, how to find out y2? In this case, what we will do? We will do a simple cross multiplication. So, to find out this missing figure, we will do a cross multiplication where we will say the answer will be product of x2 into y1 divided by x1. So, for a direct variation, we are going to do a cross multiplication. Whereas, in inverse variation, we are going to do a direct multiplication, which means here y2 missing figure kandupidikkiradhukku in direct variation we will do x2 into y1 divided by x1, cross multiply. Whereas here, to find out this variation, we will do x1 into y1 divided by x2. In other words, we are going to multiply straight. So, we call it as straight multiplication. These are the shortcut points when it comes to variations. Am I clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So, a quick recap. I am showing the screen. You can take down the points for your reference. If you want me to expand the screen, let me know. You can take down these points. Though this PDF notes will be shared, I would still recommend you all to take down the points that is shown in the screen by your hand, so that writing once in your notebook will help you to revise in your examination for your examination purposes, as well as writing once will make sure the points are registered in your memory better. If you have any doubts so far, please ask. Have you taken down? Can we go to the questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So now we start directly with questions from chapter 1. These questions are picked from your past practice papers from ICMA and your past examination papers of ICMA. Okay, so I have purposely removed the objective options so that you are tuned to more answering the question out of conceptual clarity than selecting the options by just a mere random selection or fluke. Of course, we do have option testing as an option, as a method of solving questions, but that is not something that we primarily look at. Okay, that is just a shortcut for your examination purposes. Now, question number 1. A class consists of 48 male and 23 female students. The ratio of female students to total strength of the class. So, male is 48 and female is 23. So, total is 48 plus 23, which is 71. Therefore, ratio that we are required here is female to total strength. So, female is 28 divided by 71. 28 divided by 71. right? Go ahead. Next question, 2 question A. If 2, 6, P, 27, Q are in continued proportion, the values of P and Q are. So the question says 2, 6, P, 27 and Q are in continued proportion. So when you say they are in continued proportion, then you can club it into value groups of 4. So first 4, if we split it as 2 and 2, I can take 2 is to 6, or 2 by 6 is equal to P by 27. And similarly, the next 2 also I can club. 6 by P is equal to 27 by Q. So now if I compare, I can find the answer. How to compare? We know the rule. If A by B equals C by D, then we will write AD is equal to BC. So given that, we are going to write 2 into 27 is equal to 6P, or P is equal to 2 into 27 by 6, which is 9. And similarly, we can write 6Q is equal to 27 into P. Now I already know the value of P, which is 9. So I can substitute Q is equal to 27 into 9 by 6. Got it? Question 2. 2b. Find the fourth proportional. So when we say fourth proportional, the question goes in the order 6, 8, 9, and the next term is missing. So in a proportion, the values are first proportional, second, third, and the fourth proportional. So the fourth term is missing. So can you go ahead, work out and give me the answer? So the question is 6, 8, 9, question mark. Go ahead. You can equate in batches of 2, 6 by 8 equals 9 by question mark. Solve and give me the answer. Quick.
I'm 12, ma'am.
12. Good. So the answer here is the missing value is equal to 12. Next. Question number 3. If a stadium having spectators divided into groups of young generation and old generation, the number of spectators are 1525 and old spectators are 1875. The ratio of total to young. So please understand what is the ratio that they are asking. Total to young. So can you work out and tell me? Same model, similar to first model, but slightly different in terms of the ratio that they are asking. Work out and give me the answer.
1525 divided by 3400.
Okay. The question is asking the ratio of total to young. They are not asking young to total. So your concept is right, but you should remember what is the numerator. The total is 1525 plus 1875, which is 3400. So you should say 3400 by young spectators, 1525. This will be the correct answer, and of course you can simplify this further depending on what the question options are available. So you can simplify this as, if you take it in 5 tables, then you will get it as 680 by 305, or you can further simplify this as 136 by 61. by 61. Okay, I've just divided by 5 tables in both places for me to get a simplified ratio. So the hint here is question level, what is the value they are asking? Please check. It is not young to total, it is total to young. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Next one. Find two numbers whose mean proportional is 8. The first number is the square of the second number. Okay. Now, what do you mean by mean proportional?
B square.
Very good. B square. So, let's refer to the properties again. If three values are in proportion, B square is equal to AC, where B is called as the mean proportional. So, we are going to use the rule B square is equal to AC, where B is the mean proportional. So, the question says mean proportional is 8. So, B is equal to 8, and the first number is square of the second number. First number A is square of C. So, A is equal to C square. Remember, A is square of C. So, A is equal to C square. Okay. So, we can say 8 square is equal to AC square, AC, where I can write A as C square. So, 8 square is what? 64 is equal to C square into C, which is C cube. Now, taking cubic root on both sides, you will get C is equal to cubic root of 64. So, what is the cubic root of 64? What multiplied 3 times will give you 64?
4.
4. 4 into 4 into 4 is 64. Therefore, the value of C is equal to 4. Now, we know the rule C square is A, which is 4 square is equal to A. Therefore, A is equal to 16. So, the numbers are 16 and 4. Am I clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Next. Question 5. The ratio of pocket money saved by Rakesh and his sister is 5:6. His sister saves 60 rupees more. How much more the brother should save in order to keep the ratio of their savings unchanged? So, if the number 5:6 ratio should not change. Now, sister is increasing the savings by 60 rupees more. So the ratio given is 5:6. Now sister is increasing the savings by 60 rupees. Okay, so sister is in the numerator or the denominator? The denominator. So the denominator represents the sister here, and sister is increasing the savings by 60 rupees. Now by how much the brother should increase the savings to make it in the same proportion? Now very simple, we can say 5/6. Now what is the additional savings made? Just put the additional savings in the denominator for the sister, 60. Now what will be the numerator?
50, ma'am.
Yes. So when you cross multiply, you will get 60 into 5/6. So you will get the answer as 50. So brother should save 50 rupees more to make the proportion or the ratio of the savings unchanged. Next, sixth question. Please try the answer. The ratio of number of faces to number of edges of a box. Number of faces to number of edges of a box. So now when you say a box is a cube. Okay. A box is a cube. A cube technically has how many sides or face?
6 face.
Yeah, 6. Now how many edges will a cube have? What is an edge?
12 edges, ma'am.
So what is an edge? An edge is nothing but the joining dot. The joint of any two corners or any two lines or any two sides becomes a edge. So how many edges do we get? 1, 2, 3, 4. Same way 5, 6, 7, 8. Is it totally only 8? Yes? Now, remember these two hints. When the question silently mention only only the word edge, then it represents the line and not the point. So, how many lines join the faces of the box? 4 and bottom 4, and you have 4 vertical pillars. So you get totally 4 plus 4 plus 4, we get 12 edges. Whereas if the question mentions edge points, then it refers to only the intersection points. So here it will be 8 points for intersection. Now the question here is edges. So edges, now we are going to take the sides. So the total number of faces is 6, total number of edge sides is 12. So the ratio is 6:12 or 1:2. Am I clear? Next, 7th question for you to solve. Two numbers are in the ratio 7:9. The sum of the two numbers is 288. The smaller number is. Go ahead, please solve and give me the answer.
126.
1,
26.
26. Let us check. Yes, it is the correct answer. So let's quickly go to the working. The two numbers, let's assume x comma y, are in the ratio 7:9. The smaller number, okay, smaller number, it will be the value which is, this is what is asked. Now, is asked, the sum of the numbers is 288. So, x plus y is equal to 288. Or, I can represent y as 288 minus x. So, I can say the numbers are in the ratio 7:9, which is 288 divided by, x divided by 288 minus x. So basically the ratio comes like this. I am repeating, please listen. X by y is equal to 7/9. Instead of y, I am writing the equation as 288 by minus x. Now simplify and solve. You will get the answer. (2016) minus 7x is equal to 9x, or 2016 is equal to 9 plus 7, 16x. Now therefore x is equal to 2016 by 16, which is 126, which is the smaller number. Now if they ask you what is the larger number, then you can go vice versa. You can substitute, instead of x, you can keep y as the value required and you can solve. Am I clear? Any doubts in answering the question?
No, ma'am.
Yes. That's good. Quick. Let's go to question number 8. This is a question on when this symbol comes, it is a direction that it is a variation related question. Okay. When A is directly proportional to B. And when A is 7, B is equal to 3. So when we say directly proportional, what multiplication should we do? We have to do a cross multiplication. So when A is 7, B is equal to 3. So let's write A equals 7, B equals 3. Now they are asking what is A if B equals 2? Now since it is a direct variation, we are going to cross multiply. Remember, if they give this, then it is a direct variation. If they give 1 by, or if they give 1 by A is directly variant to B, either end vanda, it is inverse proportion. Then you should do straight multiplication. So here now we are going to do direct cross multiplication because it is a direct variation. So value of A, missing figure, is going to be 2 into 7 divided by 3. (14 by 3), which is 4.67. Am I right? Next question. Find the duplicate ratio of 8 is to A root 4B. Now duplicate ratio means what?
Square.
Square. So we are going to do 8 is to a root 4b. So square both the values. You will get 8 square is 64 is to, now a squared will become a square, and this entire value in the root, inside the root will get removed. So a square into 4b. So answer will be 64 is to 4a square b. 4a square b. And the last question, what number should be subtracted from each of the numbers 17, 25, 31 and 47 so that the remainders are in proportion? So the result that you get should be in proportion, and you should subtract one number which is common to all these values. There are two ways. One, you can solve it mathematically, which we are going to do now. In the examination, if you have the option, you can simply do the option testing by subtracting each the values and checking whether the answer values are in proportion. Either which ways, I leave the answer solving method to you. Whichever is comfortable, you can solve in the examination. But let us do here in the conceptual method so that we are clear with the working process. So the number, let us assume the number to be subtracted is x. So when I subtract 17 minus x, then 25 minus x, then 31 minus x and 47 minus x are in proportion, which means that I can write this as 17 minus x by 25 minus x equals 31 minus x by 47 minus x. Cross multiply. 17 into 47. 799 minus 17x minus 47x, minus of minus becomes plus x square. Do not bother about this square. You will eventually be cancelling the values. 7 31 and 25. 775 minus 31x minus 25x, minus of minus again plus x square. So plus x square in the RHS and LHS will get cancelled. Now you are left with 799 minus 17 minus 47. Add the two negative numbers, you get 64. So minus 64x equals 775 minus 56x. So bring x to one side, you will get 799 minus 775 equals, minus on the other side becomes plus 64x minus 56x. So 24 equals 8x, and therefore x equals 24 by 8, which is 3. And this summarizes your answer. Am I clear? Yes, friends? So these are some of the practice questions from your PTPs or practice papers and your exam papers of last three attempts. Okay? Any doubts in the first chapter of the first module, ratios, variations and proportions?
No.
Any doubts, friends? Okay. Now that you're clear, let's go to the next topic, time and distance. So let's go to the conceptual discussion. Very simple part. I think this is fourth subtopic of module 1, but I am covering it first because it is similar to ratios variations. Okay, time and distance. Friends, this concept is going to just revolve around three terms: time, distance and speed. And there is only three formula that you will remember. Basically only one formula, and the formula way three different versions la podrom. The formula goes as distance is equal to speed into time. Distance is equal to speed into time, or speed is equal to distance by time, or time is equal to distance by speed. All boils down to the same formula, which we are expressing it in different methods. Now the question can be on calculation of speed given distance and time, or time given distance and speed, or distance given speed and time. Okay. Now the question, depending on what is required in the question, we will accordingly modify the formula to apply in the question. Have you taken down the formula?
Yes, ma'am.
Shall we directly go to the questions? Shall we?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. First question. With a 5% increase in distance and a 2.5% increase in time, what would be the impact on speed? So let's understand. I'm sorry. So let's see what is the missing figure. Speed is the missing figure. So first formula output undrilla. Speed is equal to distance by time. Now let us assume the distance is x, which is increasing by how much? 5% increase. So x plus 5%, or x into 105%. So whenever it is a percentage increase, you will add it with 100. 105%, which can be written as 105 divided by 100, or 1.05. So distance into 1.05. Am I clear? Suppose if the question mentions the distance is reducing by 5%, then how you will write? It is minus 5%. So you have to subtract it from 100. You will say 100 minus 5, which is x into 95%, or 95 by 100, which is 0.95. Increase na 100 plus. Okay. Decrease na 100 minus. Am I clear? Okay. Now distance by come to the prospect of time. Yeah. Now coming to time, the question says 2.5% increase in time. So can you tell me, assume the same XA which konga, plus 2.5%. So how will you express, can you tell me? Yes, please give me the answer. Friends, $100 plus 2.5%. So என்ன சொல்வீங்க? 102.5%, which is 102.5 by 100, which is 1.025. Am I clear? So time into 1.025. So therefore the impact will be distance by time to 1.05 divided by 1.025. Can you work out and give me the value? The value will be 1.024. Which means multiply by 100, you will get 102.4%. Or இது 100 விட அதிகமா இருக்கு, which means speed will be increasing. So subtract 100 எடுத்துருங்க வெளியில. 100 வெளியில எடுத்துட்டா எவ்வளவு இருக்கு பேலன்ஸ்? You get 2.4% increase. Suppose if the value is less than 100, then subtract 100, whatever is the difference is the decrease. Am I clear? Friends, please respond. Am I clear? Yes or no?
Ma'am? Ma'am, இப்போ அங்க ரெண்டு இது சால்வ் பண்ணிருக்கோம்ல மேம், 1.05 and 1.025. அதுக்கு அடுத்து ஒரு ஸ்டெப் போட்டிருக்கீங்களா, அந்த இடத்துல மட்டும் கொஞ்சம் எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்றீங்களா?
Okay. So now I have put 1.05 வந்து டிஸ்டன்ஸ்க்கு, 1.025 வந்து டைம்க்கு. Now இந்த distance by time ratio அது மாற போறது கிடையாது. So keep it same. Keep it as it is. Now just divide the two numbers that you have got in the same proportion. So 1.05 divided by 1.025 பண்ணுங்க. What answer you will get? You will get it as 1.024. 1.024 இப்போ now we have to understand percentageல. Percentageல எப்படி understand பண்ணிக்கணும்? Multiply by 100. So which is 102.4%. 102.4% means 2.4% increase in the speed. Am I clear now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now for practice, for you to gain comfort, please solve this question. I am giving you impromptu another question, same model. If distance is decreased by 3% and time increases by 2%, what is the impact on speed? You can do this in any model. Now here speed is asked, so we are doing distance by time. இப்போ suppose distance and speed கொடுத்துட்டு time கேக்குறாங்கன்னா, you can accordingly change the formula and work. So now distance is decreased by 3% means what you will write? 100 minus 3%. 97% or 0.97. Time increases by 2%. 100 plus 2%, which is 102% or 1.02. Now impact on speed. Speed is equal to distance by time. So distance வந்து 0.97 by time 1.02 பண்ணுங்க. You get the answer as 0.9509, which means 100 ஆல் multiply பண்ணுங்க, 95%. 95% na it has reduced from 100. So minus 100, what is the difference? 5%. So your answer will be, it is a 5% decrease in speed. Are we clear? Friends, please respond. Are you clear? You want me to explain again?
Clear, ma'am.
Okay, good. Question number 2. If a Toto travels for 6 hours on a working day to cover 1.5 times the distance travelled on a holiday, and on a holiday it takes 4 hours to cover 110 kilometers than for a span of 7 days, how much distance is covered? A Toto travels 6 hours on a working day to cover 1.5 times the distance travelled on a holiday. And on a holiday it takes 4 hours to cover a distance of 110 kilometers. So there are 5 working days and 2 holidays. So in a holiday, what is the distance covered? 110 kilometers. And what is the time taken? 4 hours. And on a working day, what is the distance covered? 1.5 times the distance travelled on a holiday. So 110 is the distance on a holiday. 110 into 1.5 times is the distance on the working day. So what is 110 into 1.5? 165 kilometers. For which it takes how many hours? 6 hours. Now, இப்போ questionல என்ன கேக்குறாங்க? நீங்க அதை ஆன்சர் பண்ணா போறோம். ஃபார்முலா டைரக்டா ஃபர்ஸ்ட் போடணும்னு இல்ல. ஃபர்ஸ்ட் see what is asked in the question. How much distance is covered? ஒரு வாரத்துல in a span of 7 days, which is 5 working and 2 holidays, how much total distance is covered? Which means 5 working days plus 2 holidays. So for each working day, how many kilometers, friends? Please answer. Only if you answer, I will know whether you are following me or not. 5 into 165 plus 2 into 110, which gives you total of 45. Okay, let's cross check. 825 plus 110 into 2, so 220. Very good. So your answer is 1045 kilometers, right? Now in the same manner, I will come and help you out with question number 3. Please try question number 4, 5 and 6 now. I will help you out with question number 3 subsequently, but try question number 4, 5 and 6 right now, friends. Quick, remember in the exam only 1 minute to 1.5 minutes you should take for these questions. So fast answer பண்ணணும். Yes. Question number 3 answer. Sorry, question number 4 answer. A train takes 35 hours to reach Punjab from Kolkata and takes 42 hours to reach Kolkata from Gujarat and 25 hours from Punjab to Gujarat. How many days does it take for a trip from Kolkata to Punjab to Gujarat to Kolkata? And what is the distance covered? So Kolkata to Punjab. So Kolkata to Punjab is 35 hours. Then from Punjab to Gujarat, it has to take 25 hours. So the first stretch will take 35 hours plus second stretch will take 25 hours and Gujarat to Calcutta to Gujarat கொடுத்திருக்காங்க, vice versa will also take the same time, so it is 42 hours. So which is totally how many hours? 60, 102 hours. Now divide by 24, which is how many days? 4.25 days. 4.25 days. This 0.25, if you have to convert into hours, you have to write 4 days and 0.25 into 24 hours. So 0.25 into 24 panna 6 hours. So which is 4 days and 6 hours or 4.25 days. Exam la endha option irukku nu paathuட்டு choose பண்ணுங்க. Right? Got this answer? Next, question number 5. A takes 3 hours to cover a distance of 60 kilometers. B takes 2 hours to cover a distance of 50. How much time would it take for A more than B to cover 300 kilometers? So A takes 3 hours to cover 60 kilometers. So for A, 60 kilometers ku 3 hours na 300 kilometers ku how many hours? Cross multiplication. Because when it is going to be in relation to distance and time, they are directly relation to each other. When distance increases, time travel will also increase. So therefore, it is direct relationship, or now you can do cross multiplication. So 300 into 3 divided by 60. 15 hours for A. Now same way for B, it takes 2 hours to cover 50 kilometers. So 2 hours to cover 50 kilometers, appo 300 kilometers ku how much? So 2 into 300 by 50. Sorry, 12, not 18. 12. Therefore, what is the gap? The gap is 3 hours, where A will take 3 hours more than B to cover the 300 kilometer stretch. Friends, are you clear with the answer? Any doubt? Right. Sixth one. When a bike had travelled for 78 kilometers in 3 hours and 45 minutes in the evening, how much distance would the bike travel in 2 hours? So 78 kilometers for 3 hours and 45 minutes. Now 78 kilometers and the time is 3 hours and 45 minutes. Now how to convert this minutes into hours? Can I write it as 3.45? Wrong. I should write 3 hours plus 45 by 60 because every hour takes only 60 minutes. So 45 by 60 pannunga, you will get the decimal. 0.75. So you get 3 plus 0.75. So the answer will be 3.75 hours. Okay. And how much is the distance travelled in 2 hours? So 2 hours na, what is the distance? Remember, distance and time are directly proportional to each other. So do a cross multiplication. So answer will be 78 into 2 divided by 3.75. Answer is 41.6 kilometers. Are you getting this answer, friends? .6 kilometers. Yes, are you getting this? Friends, can I have your answer, yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. And to the third question, y is the yardstick to measure the performance where y is equal to speed into time into distance. If the time taken by one of the vehicles is increased by 10%, now the yardstick is speed into time into distance. Now what happens? The time taken increases by 10%. So can I write it as 100 plus 10%? 110% or 1.1. Okay. Now, only the time taken is increased. Now when the time taken increases, is the speed increasing? No, the speed is not increasing. Now you have to understand, sorry, the distance is not increasing, my bad. The distance covered is not increasing. The distance is the same distance. Okay. Now what will be the impact of the first vehicle? Okay, so here what happens, the yardstick will be speed into time. Time is now increased, 1.1 into time into distance. Up overall increase enna agudhu? 1.10. So you can say the first vehicle performance increases by 1.10 or 110% or increases by 10%. The yardstick increases by 10%. It is not necessarily performance, but the yardstick increases by 10%.
Ma'am, can you repeat once again, ma'am?
See, the ratio they have given the formula as speed into time into distance on the yardstick. Now, adala time alone is changing. So, time alone I am doing the multiplication. So, what happens? The yardstick there is a multiplier factor by 1.10. So, your overall proportion will get multiplied by 1.10. So, 1.10 increase na 10% increase. So, you can say the first vehicle's performance or the yardstick increases by 10%. Am I clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, these are some of your questions repeated from your material, from your practice papers and your exam papers for speed, distance and time. Any doubts in this chapter? Any doubts, friends? Okay. So, with this we complete 2 chapters from your module 1, ratio, proportions and variation and speed, distance and time. Right?